Welcome everyone. This is a quick video just to show you how loops work in R. It's part of a series, part of my book, Using R as a GIS. So if you've not seen anything else, please check out the links below and the other videos in the series. So we're going to say, how do we actually work with loops in R? So we've got our existing code that will plot maps. So we've got TM shape, LSOA, which is the polygons, the map on the map, and TM polygons, and then age 0 to 4. So this is the column of data that's being shown on the map. These two are the parameters, so the bits of information that we can customize. And as we've already seen, we can add various bits to this code. So we can add extra bits of information. So we can say, okay, we want the title to be age 0 to 4. We want the palette to be green, so the colors. We want the classification style to be Jenks. And we can add various other bits as well. And these are all parameters in the TM polygons section. And we can say how many classes we want as well. So we might say, okay, we want 6 categories here. And we can also add some other bits as well. So we use the plus sign to connect these different sections together. And then we can say, okay, here's the layout, and we want the legend title size to be this size. And this is a very common thing in R. It uses numbers to represent sizes. And this is a proportion. So if we set that as 1, that's the default and that's the standard size. And if we want to make it smaller, we put it as a lower value than 1. So this would be 0.8. So that's 80% of the normal size. If we want it to be bigger, we might set it to say 1.2, which would be 20% above normal size. And you have to try this, run the code, see what it looks like, and then go back and customize it. And we can add lots of other bits as well. So we can add a bit to do with the scale bar, compass, and various other bits and pieces as well. So they use, again, numbers for size. So this is 0.22, it's the width of the scale bar. And the position, it uses a pair of numbers, a little bit like coordinates, in that the first number is left to right. So 0 is on the left-hand side and 1 is on the right-hand side. So this would be 5% from the left-hand side. And then the second number is bottom to top. So 0 being at the bottom, 1 being at the top. So this is 18% kind of up the page. Similar approach for north arrow as well. And then we've got some extra layout options. So we can say, do we want a frame? So true or false, what the title is, the size, and the position. And as well as with the numbers, we can also use certain keywords. So this would be top. So put this at the top of the map. So we can have top, middle, or bottom, and left, center, or right. And so this is our code that generates the map. You know, we're fairly familiar with this now. There's lots of bits here. If we run this code as is, it will put the map in the plot window. You know, and that's fine, but it doesn't give us much flexibility. So if we tweak the code very slightly, so just by assigning this to the variable m, and then run this tmap save m, this will actually save it as a file rather than the plot window. So when you run this command, R will give you some output and say the map is saved in this folder with this file name. And this is really, really powerful because it allows us to include this within a loop. So we can repeat this code and save the map within the code rather than having to click export each time. And once we've got this code to save the map as a file, we can put this within a loop, so which will repeat the code and do us maps for different data sets. And we use the for command for this to put it within a loop. And then we have a set of round brackets, and then we have a set of curly brackets. So this is the third type of brackets that R uses. And so these include the code within the loop. So this is everything within the loop code, and we'll go through that in a minute. And then the other bit is this for code, which sets up the loop for us. So let's zoom in a bit and explore a bit what's going on here. So to start off with, we set, okay, so we create this thing called map variables. And this is our way of saying which columns do we want to show. So we've got all user residents, age 0 to 4 and age 5 to 7. And you could have 1 column here, 2 columns, 3 columns, 10 columns, 20 columns, 50 columns. It doesn't really matter how many. And then we have the beginning of the loop. So it runs this line first. it says 4, so R knows this is a loop. Then it looks at the bit in the round brackets, and it kind of does it backwards almost. So let's start this end. So we've got length map variables. So map variables is our variable we just created up here with our column names in, and length is like count. So how many things are in there? So there's 3 things in there. So what this line is actually saying is I in 1 to 3. So the colon is a range. So it does 1 to 3. So 1, 2, 3. If it was 1:5, it would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And then I, this is what we call the iterator or the loop counter. And this is the variable that changes every time you go through the loop. So let's start off the first time through the loop, I is 1. Then we go through this code. This is very similar to the previous map code, but with a couple of changes. So this is the first change. So instead of our explicitly writing out our column name here, we say map variables square brackets I. And I is 1 in this first time around. So we're saying map variables 1. And the first thing in map variables is all usual residents. So that line is essentially saying this: TM polygons, all usual residents, palette greens, and blah, 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 all the rest of the stuff. So this will create our all usual residents map. Then we use the tmap save function to save it. We've tweaked this a little bit because we've got to give it a different file name so we know what map is what. So here we've got map variables I. I is 1 in this case. So map variables is all usual residents. So that line is saying our file name is map all usual residents.png. Paste 0 is a handy function for concatenating text, linking bits of text together. So it creates our nice output. And then M is the map we've created that we save. So this saves it as a file. Then we get to this curly bracket. So that's the end of the loop. And R goes back to the beginning. And this time, I is 2 instead of 1. So it goes up. Then we run the code. So map variables 2 is age 0 to 4. And then tmap save M file name map age 0 to 4.png. So you can see how the variable from map variables comes into here because I is now 2. Then again, we get to the end of the loop and then we start again. So this time I is 3. So map variables 3 is age 5 to 7 and the same for the file name. And we get to the end of the loop and start again. This time we've done 3. So the next one would be 4, but we're not doing 4. So R stops the loop code. And then we carry on with the rest of the code underneath it. So it's a great overview of a loop code. This is kind of more or less what we might end up with. So we've got our 3 maps. Remember, when we run this, it will save the maps to the working directory and not show them in the plots window. So nothing will appear in terms of maps when you run this code, but look at the console for the output there. Thanks for joining me for this quick overview of loops, and please do check out the rest of the videos or my book.